What's good, gamers? Right, we're back with some more Nightreign build showcase, and today we're going to look at a build that I use for the Wylder, and I use it a lot. Now, a few of you have mentioned that you're a little bit tired of seeing Dregs build, so today I'm going to talk you through a build that I use it on a few different characters, if I'm being honest, but mostly I use it on the Wylder, and it's like a universal build that you can use on anyone. So today I'm going to go for the build that I use for Wylder, and it's not going to entail any Dregs. And on the Dregs topic, like, I get that people are tired of it, and like, I do understand, like, I'm the first person to complain about double balancer Halo slop. Obviously, Dregs requires an infinite more amount of skill to use, whereas the Halo slop is literally just L2 from distance. But, you know, that's a completely different topic. And the simple fact is why you see Dregs in a lot of builds is the single biggest damaging relic you can have in Nightreign. Of course, it requires a lot to use it, but it is the single biggest damaging relic. So that's why people use it. But today, let's talk about this build that has no Knight of Dregs in it. Now, once you reach like depth 5, even depth 4 really, one of the main things that you need to have is damage. If you're a part of a team and you're not doing any damage, you are literally help throwing in the run. And even like things like, you know, having tanks on the team, you still want to be able to have a tank playstyle but still do a lot of damage. That's why like having things like the Raider be a tank is a really good option to have, because even if he's gone all in for tanking, he can still do a big amount of damage because of things like Raider's character personal skill that, you know, you get a damage boost when taking an attack, taking tact improves damage, all those kind of things that do help buff your damage. That's why having a tank Raider is normally a good idea. So yeah, how do we make damage if we're not using things like the Balancers or the Dreglord relic? Well, it goes back to the previous video I made about buff stacking. So you want to find ways that you can add any kind of buff stacking, damage stacking into your base relics, and obviously your Deep of Night relics. So for the Wylder build, let's get to the first set of relics, the base relics. I like to call this my successive build. We'll go through the relics in a moment, but essentially it's a low RNG build. Of course, it still requires some RNG, like all builds in Nightreign. If you're not using a Night Lord relic, it is going to require some RNG, but it's a very light RNG build. So top relic, we have the Night Invader relic. I mean, I don't really need to explain that. Every Night Invader you kill, 7% damage increase. You can get up to 4 in 1 expedition, so potentially you can have over 30% damage increase, because obviously the damage buffs are multiplicative. Now, on that same relic, I do have partial HP restoration. It's a very good relic. Obviously, just use a Night Invader relic. That's what we're looking for. Second relic is literally only there for the 3+ greatswords. Now, I know some of you do not like using 3+ greatswords. Obviously, you don't have to stick to 3+ greatswords. You can use 3+ fists. You can use 3+ whatever you want. I have a build on Wylder, Undertaker, and I use it on the Raider, which has 3+ Colossals, which does insane damage. But yeah, what we're looking for on my particular build is 3+ Greatswords. The reason why we have the 3+ Greatswords on, most of the time, if you're using Greatswords, you're going to be using jump attacks. So you need a minimum of 2 Greatswords anyway. So if you throw another Greatsword on, it's an extra 20% damage increase, and you might even get a Greatsword with like melee 15 on, or something like that. Especially if you're playing the Deep of Night, when you go to Night Invader camps with your teammates, if there's a Wylder there, you're most likely going to be dropped 3 Greatswords with 3 amazing passives on. So it's a no-brainer. And lastly, but most certainly not least, we have the Glass Necklace. You get this from finishing the Undertaker's Remembrance quest, and it is probably, outside of the Knight of Dregs, the best damage buffing relic you can have in Nightreign. It has 3 tiers which all stack together. It has a 5 for level 1, a 6.5 for level 2, and a 9 for level 3. So altogether, with the maximum buff, you're getting over 20% damage increase just for this relic. Now, when you do like 2 or 3 jump attacks with the Wylder, you're going to be at the maximum tier, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 jump attacks will get you to the maximum tier. So already, from the base relics, let's just say we have a Night Invader. Minimum we had was 2. That's 14%. Then we got the 3+ Greatswords, that's 20%, so we're already at 34%. And then on top of that, we have the Glass Necklace, which is going to give you roughly around 21% damage increase. So we're already at a minimum of 54% damage increase. Now remember, it's multiplicative, so it's going to be closer to actually like 70%, which obviously for 3 base relics is an insane damage increase for a build that has, you know, no character-specific relics on. Now, you're not stuck on Greatswords. You can obviously use whatever weapon you want. Once you've got the 3+ Greatswords in your inventory, you've got the Successive Tally and all that stuff going, you can obviously then use any weapon that you want. So you don't have to stick to Greatswords. So if you had 3 Greatswords, all with decent passives, and then you found, like, I don't know, Starfist with, like, Charge on or something like that, you could use a Starfist, and all that damage you're getting from your setup is going to carry over to the Starfist. So you're not stuck to greatswords. It's just because Wylder default class is greatswords. I have a decent greatsword relic, so that's what I use. And then I can switch to any weapon I want. Like you just saw in the Libra video where I had a thrusting sword, the Antspur Rapier, which is a mostly dex scaling weapon, and I had over 500 AR just on that weapon alone, which is obviously crazy. Now, of course, on the deep relics, you can also have 3+ X weapon, you know, insert your weapon of choice. But I would always try and have the 3+ greatswords on the base relic because you're getting more out of it. Like for the deep relics, you can't have 3+ greatswords, for instance, and a physical attack up +4. So on the base relics, if you can have a relic that can potentially give you 20%, you're not losing out that much. Like there's not many base relics that can increase your damage by that much. So that's why I always try and have the 3+ insert your weapon on a base relic rather than a deep relic. If you could have 3+ greatswords and physical attack ups, of course it would be better to have it on a deep relic, so then you can open the base for one of his personal relics. And as you probably saw on my build, I don't have space to fit the +1 on. I hate not playing with the +1, but it's either +1 grappling hook or 20% damage increase. For me, it's a no-brainer. For the rest of the deep relics, basically just stack damage, like, you know, physical attack up 2, 3, 4. If you can fit HP or defense on as well, fit them on as well. And of course, for the Wylder, you always want to have the grapple inflicts blood loss. I think that's just, it's an insane relic to have. If you have that in conjunction with the physical attack ups, even better. Aside from the relics, other ways to buff this build in Expedition, of course, if you're using jump attacks and greatswords, attack up with 2 armaments, jump attacks, melee attacks, physical attacks, all of those are obviously going to help your build out. For talismans, you want to try and find the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, Millicent's Prothesis, Jump Attack Talisman, the Claw Talisman, and then for items, and I always do this, if you notice on all of my Night Lord expeditions, when I get to the boss, if I obviously can find them, I will have Blood Boil Aromatics and Exalted Flesh, and anything else really that can buff your damage. Like you get the Thorny Crack tier, which obviously is the successive tier. When you drink it, the more damage, the more attacks you do, the bigger damage boost you get. And with all these items, consumables, builds, this is how I got to that Wylder build that you probably all remember, where I was doing 2000 AR and I was doing like over 4000 jump attacks. Which obviously, it leads me back to that video I made before on the buff stacking. Most of you have probably already seen that, but if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's this one here. I'll put it on screen now so you can see which one it is on my channel. It's a very good video and it will open your mind a little bit to how to make your damage just stronger in general throughout the run. Right, I've yapped enough on this one, and there's not really much else to show you with this one. It's fairly straightforward. Stack your damage, do your jump attacks, get your successful buffs going, and do a shit ton of damage. There is some different variations with Nightfarers that I do use, which I'll go through in a different video. But for the Wylder build, for all my Wylder goats, this is the build that I go to when basically I don't have to think. It's just a damaging build. I don't have to worry about being under max health, so I can, you know, take damage here and there when I've got a damage negation at full. With Dregs, it obviously requires a lot of brain power. It also requires you to actually be on the ball. Like, you can't just play sloppy because you will get one-tapped, especially in depth 5. So this is my go-to build, really when I can't be bothered to be on my A game. That's why I use this build. Now, I'll leave you with a final gameplay showcase just to show you how strong it can actually be. As always, gamers, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a sub, like, and a comment. It does help the channel out massively. Stay safe. Catch you on the next one. Big love. Peace. 591 Raptors. Okay. Oh no, my Duchess has been sloppified. Can't see how much damage we're doing here because... Okay, was that like 3,200? Oh, we're one-handed the weapon as well. 1,800 one-handed. So as you can see, crazy damage. Maybe we'll make a Raptor's Talon Guard counter build. Yes, very good, my Duchess slot friend. Very good, very good.